Hi there, and welcome to the Long Short Show live video version. We are experimenting with some stuff. So we are going to debate topics from the inane to the incredibly relevant, just for fun. This is our typical 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. slot, which we are starting late just for fun. Please enjoy. James has prepared a special smorgasbord of topics for us to discuss and bat around as usual. If you have questions, comments, or things that you urgently need to say, the best place to participate is to jump into the Discord, ideamarket.io/discord, and slap them right into the general chat. And we'll figure out a way to get you involved and get your questions answered and maybe even get you on stage. So, James, let's take it away.
Okay. I think we'll just start with a huge one this week, which is probably the inevitable. There was a few articles around this, but it was basically, I think we should chat about the Facebook outage, the absolute chasm of our existence. I think the thing is that, one thing to look at immediately is that there was a huge list. It was longer than just Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, which are all owned by Facebook. But then it was like, I saw a list of 10 other huge websites that had all gone down. But this brings about just the same, sort of the same topic that we have discussed for a couple of weeks, which is like, we discussed it last week, the idea of like, well, what happens if YouTube is just like, yeah, all right, I deleted YouTube, what are you going to do about it? But it's the same thing as this. It's almost like the modern equivalent of there's water not coming out of the tap. Like, I've turned the tap on, there's no water there. Like, I pressed F in the URL thing, the Facebook thing automatically loaded, I pressed enter as per usual, and it just didn't work. And that's like, what's going on there, man? Like,
yeah.
It's so absolutely baked into normality that it's like, oh, it must be something my end. Like, the last thing it could ever be is that it's something to do with them. Because if it was, they would have told you about it. And that's like and it just shows that like their product is reliant. Obviously, this is it seems like a silly thing to say, but their product is so reliant on attention and the customer. Like, they can't be down, because that's the equivalent of like, I don't know, a car sales lot literally not having any cars, right? It's like, because a lot of other businesses and a lot of other things can exist. Like, oh yeah, our store's closed, but don't worry about it. It's all fine, whatever. Like, they're super flexible. But it shows that Facebook is just this. It almost comes across as like Facebook is just relic now of centralization, right? It's like the Death Star analogy that we've had before. Like, it got shot in that one spot and it's gone. And it's like, right, there isn't like any decentralized aspects to Facebook. It's like, if that's gone, it's gone. And how much did they lose? I think I saw it was 36 million in revenue.
Oh, only that sounds low, but I don't know. It sounds possible. I heard something about the stock losses, the stock value, market cap losses being in the billions, which is super likely because it's like 500 billion. So losing $1 billion in market cap would be like a fraction of a percent of a change, like 0.2% or something.
Okay, the Fortune estimated that Facebook lost nearly 100 million on Monday.
Yeah.
And it takes home 85 billion in ads in 2020. So, hang on. I can't do the math. That's less than a percent.
It's an 850th, yeah, of their annual. So not even like a day's revenue, it sounds.
So if we were to put that into normal terms, let's just round it up to 1,000th of something. If you had a business that was worth $1 million, is that 100? That's £100.
That's 1,000.
No, 1,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Like that. Put into that.
It's just microscopic.
That's like the Walmart analogy you've given before, right? Of like, if someone eats something bad from Walmart, it's like, oh, that person died. But it wouldn't even be that. How much should we lose today? 100 million. All right. We'll make it back. We'll do like, when we have to like do extra work. Yeah, we'll do that. Fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's mad.
I saw some kind of memo circulating on Twitter where I guess some Facebook insiders were circulating like risks and what they would mean. And they said that, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so I'm only going to say what I clearly remember. And that is that like a big outage like this would hit them really particularly hard in the reputation section. That people will feel how fragile it is, and maybe advertisers will be scared away, or maybe business owners who use Facebook for their businesses that could have just like evaporated overnight will like start looking for other options, which they totally should. But
yeah. There was one conspiracy around it, right? There was on Twitter, like for a few hours before it went down, trending with about over 70,000 retweets in the trend was hashtag delete Facebook, and then it went down. I don't know if you saw that, and I think that it's almost like the network eating itself, right? Is that virally, if another network begins to bring that about, they could start to see big losses. But I think the key thing that it's starting to see really is the fragility aspect. I mean, like when I was younger, I can't remember the last time I've had a power cut. It's been a long time, but like maybe get one every like year at most, maybe every 3 years. And at that point, it's like, you sort of remember that electricity isn't this magical thing, and it's like, oh yeah, we get to play with the candles. But as you said, it's like, where's the line, right? You know, take the electricity analogy, or take the Facebook, you know, even take Facebook. It's like, oh, your Facebooks are down. Oh, don't worry about it. It'll be back up. But then, like, where's the line where you go, oh, it's down again? Like, this is starting to not really be anything reliable. Like, if you looked at it like you do electricity, it's like, once a year, nothing. Once a month, we're starting to get to the point where, you know, I need to, once a week, I need to look at other options. So this is, you know? I think they said that about McDonald's though a while ago. I don't know if this is one of these just made up things. They said like because of the way they do turnover, this can't be true, but I remember it. The way they do turnover is so close. Their margins are so small that if every single McDonald's store shut down for 24 hours, it would be almost impossible for them to like come back. I don't know if that's true, but I remember hearing something along those lines. I could just be spouting nonsense, but I remember something to do with it. But I don't know. They'd be bailed out, wouldn't they? Right? It's like an absolute. They've got to the point of basically invulnerable. There's a point in the economy where you just get invulnerable because the government will bail you out because your loss is so big that it's going to cause just absolute disruption in everything. So it's like, yeah, we just need to bail these people out.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard that McDonald's thing, and I hadn't seen the delete Facebook hashtag trending. I do not pay that much attention to hashtags.
Well, it was just on the right-hand sidebar. I wasn't really looking
at it. Well, I actually replaced my right-hand sidebar with Thread Helper, which I highly recommend, actually. It's like, it's kind of a micro roam for tweets. So all the tweets that you've sent are bookmarked or retweeted, like get cataloged. And as you type a new tweet, it like auto detects the ones that might be relevant to what you're typing so that you can easily find stuff and like reference it. And it goes in the same spot as the sidebar. So I don't have to see when Justin Bieber is having a new thing going on.
Yeah, that sidebar is absolutely dystopian, man.
Right. Before I had Thread Helper, I would set the sidebar to Japanese so that it would just be in characters that don't like force me to read them on the side.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Set your location to Kyoto or something.
Okay, but one question that comes from this, right, is there's sort of two options, I think, once it hits that point where it's so destable. And the two options are like sort of the equivalent of degrowth or de-innovation, de-complexification. People are like, these things just keep breaking, so I'm just not going to use them anymore, and I'm going to simplify. The other alternative is these things keep breaking, I'm going to either there's two more options, I guess. These things keep breaking and are never stable, so I'm going to find a way to make them stable, which is probably out of their hands if it's centralized. And the third option is I'm going to find alternatives. Now, so this is sort of the risk that they're seeing. I think this is probably why they would panic so much is I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to think of that Facebook generation though, who are really into it, really steeped into it. Who I would say, I think their target demographic isn't young people. It's sort of mid-30s through till about just on. right? Middle-aged and old people. You know what I mean? To the end of
Yes.
time. Like, old people and middle-aged people will love it. I can't see that generation picking up the nuances of other social medias in the same way. Like, Twitter's a real young person's game.
Yeah,
Or at least
absolutely.
young mind. You've got to be
Yeah.
extremely plastic for Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook seems to have no particular social conventions, and that might be because it started out and still is so networked with your friends that like you just kind of do what you do and your friends know you. There's not like a huge incentive to change your behavior to like signal something in a certain way like there is on Twitter. I'm just hypothesizing here. I'm just guessing. But yeah, I totally agree that it does take a particular kind of approach to have fun on Twitter. I mean, I guess there's lots of ways to do it, but they all require some kind of sensitivity because you're out in the open, and if you say things that are too dumb, they'll take over the world, and then the world will come after you, and that'll be your life. And that's probably one of the more exciting scenarios.
You can get away with quite a lot on Facebook, it seems.
Yeah, and that maybe that's why boomers are so comfortable there. That there's
you can get away with a boomer a lot. I don't know if you can get away with, like, the boomer conspiracies are so far gone that Facebook aren't worried about them, right? They're like they've just tipped the line into like, all right, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which everyone who's into conspiracies knows that the more ridiculous they are, it just means we need longer amounts of time. The boomers are in the future, man.
Yeah. All right. Wait. Let's elaborate on this. What is this law you've just discovered? And by the way, I'm going to put your book back here. There we go. There you got it.
Nice. The law. What can we call that? So what are the constraints of this law? Like the basic is like the more insane the theory, the longer amount of time needed for it to come to fruition. But as we know from the idea of hyperstition, which is like fictions becoming reality, the more and more something is spoken about and talked about and propagated in reality, in the real culture of media, the more likely it will come about in some form. And this is, you look at any new technology, it was a fiction at some point. And the more it's spoken about, which is why it's like flying cars are sort of an inevitability, but probably not in the form that they have taken in fiction, right? Like, basically, like video phones, like smartphones, were an inevitability, but the culture mutated them towards, like, they were in Star Trek in the 60s, right? They were an inevitability. We need to just have better fictions because we just keep regurgitating the same stuff. That's what we need. Because fictions are brought about, but the problem is, people are like, yeah, man, I wrote this futuristic book. What's in it? Flying cars? Like, dude, come on, really? You know what I mean? Like, great. We got. That's why every time I read like a fiction book and someone creates some horrible future, I'm like, oh man, I really don't want more people to read this, because the more people that read this, the more likely this is to come about.
Yeah, 100%.
If you want to see the future, just read the most popular fiction, and which seems to be a battle between sci-fi and collapse, right?
That is a terrifying thought.
You see someone reading a collapse book, and you don't want to be like, slap it out of their hands. Like, don't. Go read,
dude.
What's that really nice? Kids on the Prairie, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Just read something nice.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
This law. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, the longer I've been on Twitter, the more that the absolutely most insane conspiracies have just become true. And things that when you said them at the time, you're like, for instance, and I don't know how, this is just coming from me, and people might take this for controversial, but I remember right at the start of the COVID pandemic, 2 years ago and a bit now, that guy made those like controversial cartoons of Australia, where it was like that old school sort of graphics with police like grabbing kids and being like, welcome to the vaccine checkpoint, right? And everyone was like, oh man, this guy's crazy. And now it's like, dude, there's videos of Australian police pinning people's heads down because they're not vaccinated, and they've literally got the vaccination camps in Australia now, right? Like, if you're not vaccinated, you go there. So it's like, it came true. And the classic example is, Alex Jones, he's like, they're turning the frogs gay. And everyone's like, well, yeah, you know, that's like 10 years ago. That's just, his toes are just in the realm of the absurd, where you go, you know, that's an old man on the street going, they're turning the frogs gay. And you go, yeah, okay.
Who even thinks about the sexuality of frogs?
And lo and behold, the increased fluoride in the water increased the estrogen, and it is slowly turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, there are literally papers now about how the frogs are turning gay.
Exactly, right? So this law, I think we need to start finding proofs for this law, but it needs to be plotted on an axis of how. But how? All right, there's a question for you, Mike. How do you figure out the value spectrum of normal to absurd? You know, like what is the what is the anchor which makes us think something's either absurd or normal? Like, what is that revolving around for us to go, that's weird, that's not?
Let's just spitball on this. One of the first thing that comes to mind is like what I'd call, I'm going to try to make it sound super nerdy, and call it like priority differential, like the difference between how highly it's being prioritized now and where it should be prioritized. You might also call that, or another way to approach it would be like surprisingness, like how much of a affront it would be to the general thing. But I think the more interesting definitions are the more specific ones, because those will be easier, like more concrete to apply to stuff and kind of compare against each other. But let's figure that out. Like, I'd be interested in seeing what kind of, like, how exactly, how objectively can we figure out ways to measure this stuff? I'm really excited by that, actually.
Yeah, me too, man. I want to actually plot this on a graph.
Yeah.
Because there's a time frame as well. So the axis would be time frame, definitely. So over time, the longer something takes, the more absurd it gets to be, or can be. But what's the other axis? I don't know. Conspiratorial rating. I don't know.
Okay, man, so we have kind of two things going on. We have like a distance being traversed, like the priority differential, right? And we have the time it takes to traverse it. Are those the two things we're thinking about here?
Yeah.
I think there's a third thing to consider. Go ahead.
Yeah. Credibility. If you have increased credibility or authority, or like media authority, or even status, then it decreases the time.
Yes. Yeah.
But then where does someone like Alex Jones fit on that? Because he has credibility, but it's within a frame of like non-credibility. He has. Right. He's the most credible of the dissident. He's the most credible dissident.
Really? I would think Joe Rogan is. But I guess
I just always see Joe as just an interviewer, because like people get on at him like, oh, he's like he switches teams. I'm like, no, he's just an interviewer. Like he's open to whoever's ideas are on.
Okay, so you're saying he doesn't like have particular commitments. He's not like making. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he has leanings, like, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. All right, so that makes sense. I think the way I typically think about credibility is the only credibility that counts is like the hegemonic one. It's the one that's in power. It's the conversation that's in power. If you're not allowed to say it on Twitter, no matter how right you are, no matter how big your audience is, for the sake of this conversation, I wouldn't say that's credibility, because it doesn't affect the priority differential. You can say whatever you want over in these like disallowed spaces. So credibility is only like with the relationship to the conversation that counts in terms of political influence, I guess you might say. I'm still working this out, but that's how I think of it at first. Second, in addition to like the time to craziness relationship, I think there's a third thing we have to consider, and that is this sort of like absurdity slope. Like things get crazier faster, and that shortens the time of adoption. So it becomes less about like literal time and more about
mimetic
like
time.
Like cultural distance, mimetic time. Yeah. Because like 9/11 conspiracies have taken like a super long time to grow in influence.
But they're an anomaly though, because they're after the fact, right? They're not
Oh, that's
building up
interesting.
to a reality. They're like,
Okay, yeah, maybe that's
you know
not a
what I
great
mean?
example. Maybe that's not a great example. But it's interesting that the COVID conspiracies have been so quickly vindicated. Maybe that's
Mm.
maybe that's just a feature of the phenomenon because there's like a quick feedback loop. The thing, the virus evolves, people, the vaccine comes in, people take it, they still get sick. People talk about that.
Well, COVID's on
Like,
such a wide level; it's just
yeah,
unignorable. You know.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I definitely think there's like almost like a tolerance for alcohol or something. Like once you get used to thinking about things and considering that crazy things might be real, it gets a lot quicker to iterate on the popular narrative, at
And
least
it gets
for
a lot quicker
individuals.
to, yeah, and it's a lot quicker for you to be like, yeah, that could be true. You know, things which if you told me, said to me like 10 years ago, oh, by the way, this is happening, I'd be like, you're literally insane. Like, you need help. And now I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, that could be, yeah, that's fine.
yeah, yeah. Um, Man, let's figure out. I like this idea though. So like,
Yeah, man, I'd love to see this as an actual graph. I
well,
want to
what?
plot. I want to plot things on it.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, give us some ideas for where the data might come from. All I can think of right now are like the Google Ngram searches. Have you seen these? It like shows you how frequently a word is used in the like recorded history of the English language.
Yeah, man, but you start looking at some of them, they're weird. Have you seen the word fake? You ever looked at the word fake?
No.
In like the 1700s, it was about 2 times higher than it is now. You can really assess culture from that as well. There's some real and weird anomalies in there.
Fascinating.
Yeah, odd
I
stuff.
mean, I have no idea what that would mean. I wonder
No,
if
I
it
don't.
was like, yeah, right. Do you have like a share screen thing on your side? Because maybe we can look at these right now. I have one on my side, but I don't trust it. It's
Let me.
always buggy.
Let me. What's it? Google Ngram? You say?
I think that's what it's called. People do this every now and then.
Literally an Ngram viewer. All right, let me see if I can. One second. Yeah, yeah, okay, is there.
Oh, sweet. Here we go. All right. What are we looking at here?
Okay, well, this is just what they loaded up. But I'm sure the word fake, I don't know, I might be wrong. What's this, man?
What?
Does it go back further? Up in like 1500s? Does it? See what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird.
But I guess we don't have much data here.
Well,
When was I should know this, but when is the printing press?
yeah. Gutenberg, I think it was like 15 something. Gutenberg
Gutenberg.
press invented.
Well, if it's like 1520 something, then
1450? No. 1450-ish.
but it's crazy.
14.
You know
Yeah.
that? What 0.0009 then, and 0.005.
What the hell? I mean, there were definitely a lot fewer words written back then, but that looks like it's like a higher percentage of words. That's what the thing on the left is saying.
This makes no sense.
You are correct. That is super odd.
That can't be right.
Well,
Do you think there's an anomaly? Like the fact is that it's so, like they had it once then, but because it's so obscure that it, I don't know, jumps out.
no, they wouldn't have called it the same thing. They named it that now, allegedly, because it was in December.
Let's just change it to 1800, so we've got a bit more of a.
I wonder, like, what it meant back then, and if there's some kind of symbolic like ooh shit going on, like some meme magic, which
Maybe.
would not be at all surprising. Like I've seen speculations about this, but I've never made any.
See, that looks a bit more like normal.
And I think there's a lot more reasons to use that word because it means crown, and people spoke more other languages. Like it might even be Latin for crown. It's probably Spanish for crown. And there's kings and there's like halos. Like Corona's probably got some religious context as a word. It's not surprising that that would be used a lot.
Okay. What's an interesting one we could look up? Let's just test that this makes any sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good. That's a worthy experiment. Try,
you know what I mean? Like if
yeah.
Yeah. What else have we got?
Gay frogs.
It's my browsing history. Can you not? Does it not do 2? I don't think you can do 2.
Oh. Well, then how do you do names? Albert Einstein is not one word.
Let's try that.
No?
Let's try it. Huh. Maybe just really doesn't like gay frogs.
Interesting.
Case insensitive smoothing.
Oh, that's like fuzziness, I guess.
Maybe I have to capitalize. No.
Interesting. All right. Fluoride?
Fluoride. How do you...
Yeah, there you go.
Something going on in the 1850s, man.
Yeah, it might have been some obscure medical thing. It's definitely more of a recent deal.
Is it those 70s, 80s?
Yeah. All right, here's the thing. I'm super aware of the year. Don't go anywhere yet. I'm super aware of the year 1947 because that's when the CIA was created. And a lot of weird stuff has happened. And just look at where 1947 is on this chart.
Yeah.
Just on this fluoride chart. Just like
all right.
It's where the steepest curve is.
Let's keep going with that theory. UFOs.
Yeah, that's when the Roswell crash was.
So it's 1953 that it's blasting off for UFOs.
Yeah. Well, I'm 90% sure the Roswell crash was supposedly in 1947. Yeah, 1947. Maybe they weren't calling it UFOs yet? How old is the term UFOs? Oh, Bitcoin, nice.
Maybe.
Yeah, no one knows what digital is.
No, what would be? '20s.
Look up the word Vimanas. Vimanas.
Vimanas.
Vimanas. Yeah.
Ooh.
Those are UFOs as conceived in the Hindu tradition, and they show up in I think it's Hindu. They show up in ancient paintings and stuff, and they look like UFOs a lot of the time, or they look like Krishna sitting on a flying carpet or flying pillow or something.
How did they do 2? Was it like this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is it because I don't know?
It's because Vimanas is way lower.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. It's a shame. It'd be nice to see that overlaid.
There's got to be a way to make the chart comprehensible.
Maybe it's to do with the smoothing?
Try turning it up higher.
Let's go 20.
Oh, not working.
No. Okay, that makes
All right.
it worse.
If anyone is watching us make a fool of ourselves on the Ngram viewer and wants to help, please let us know or leave a comment.
Wow, exorcisms are on the rise.
Oh, really?
If I get rid of
That's a relief.
if I get rid of possession, does that sort of equate?
Systems are on the rise, and it started in 1947, basically.
Ooh. Ooh. It's interesting, man. I could play around with this all day.
Yeah, it's fun. So this is one kind of data that we can use to look at or investigate that sort of. We still haven't come up with a word for it. Crazier time to acceptance thing. What is it, like adoption curve, like mimetic adoption curve?
Yeah.
No, because that's about belief. That's not about what really ends up happening. Is it?
Reality adoption.
Yeah. Well, are we talking about meme magic, like manifesting weird things, or predicting? Because we were talking about. Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, and the marketplace of ideas kind of started around 1947 too.
Ooh.
What?
What's going on in 1652?
Yeah, what is going on in 1652? Dear Google, tell me what's happening in 1652.
1788, and 1831.
All right, what's going on here? Maybe we should just do this every week. Or every day. That's cool.
I wonder why these spikes happen though. Like, what I'm saying is as soon as this, once again, 1947, by the way, as soon as this comes into culture, like, and is being spoken about loads, is it that the density of data then sort of finds an equilibrium? So, like, for instance, 2 mentions of it in 1650 is like the equivalent of, 2,000 mentions of it in 2000. So, like, it stands out so much then that it has to be. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can't see for a space of 3 years in the 1650s, they just suddenly were like, marketplace of ideas. What would that be?
Yeah.
1650s. Was that Renaissance?
I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page for 1652 and seeing if there's anything that sticks out, especially like some kind of economic revolution or manipulation or something. Peasant revolt. Earth. Not seeing anything in particular.
We're not really interested in the truth anymore.
Interesting.
Also, truth, 1652-53 is its highest point.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go, man.
That's cool.
It's on the rise, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, right? That the truth was at an all-time low from from World War I through to the 90s. The era of abject nihilism. Don't care about truth anymore. I want to know why it sort of spiked, though. If I change the smoothing a bit, does it... Oh, okay.
What happened in 1600 on the dot? There's a big dip there.
Oh, yeah. Man, it'd be good if we knew history, right?
Yeah, it would. Twitter weirdo historians, please enlighten us. Also, you can't help but wonder what the Ngram viewer doesn't search through. Like, it can't possibly have digitized like all the books from back
Google,
then.
Didn't you say that Google has only digitized like 2% or something of every book, and that was it? That was like that was millions of books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be millions of books, but like, it seems like having a higher percentage of the older ones would be more important for this kind of searching and stuff than to have a higher percentage of the newer ones, and it'd be easier too because there's not as many.
Yeah.
All right, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can come up with some other kind of data. This is literally the only one I thought of.
Conspiracy. What was going on in the 1800s, man?
Ooh.
That would be French Revolution era?
American Revolution was a little bit earlier, so it might have been that.
Yeah. And French Revolution was later, wasn't it?
It was like 15 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
12 years later. Look up the word conspiracy theory. Can you do that? Oh, look at that, 1947.
But also
1727.
1727 through to 30. Those look, and also 1820. When was, I should probably know this, 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November.
Yeah, you remember it, but you don't remember why.
Gunpowder treason plot.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Is that some kind of British?
What's his name? He tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, it sounds like British history. Why would I know that?
Because it's cool.
I know. I'm just joking with you.
What was his name then?
Making fun of American lack of education.
What was his name?
I don't know.
I actually can't remember his name. How about that? Oh, he was only like hung, drawn, and quartered.
That sounds unpleasant.
Yeah, I think so.
So I love this chart, this conspiracy theory chart, because
yeah, we could start overlaying. So we go
nice.
UFOs, bung that in. Yeah.
Wow.
What else? What? Oh, hang on. I like the idea of putting possession in there. Bump aliens in there. Let's see. Whoa.
All
right, we'll take possession out.
Oh,
We'll take possession out of this bad boy because that is just. It's crazy. Nothing really gets above like 0.001%.
Well, aliens had a big spike in 1575. What in the world?
Yeah. These things are tiny in comparison, though. What else comes with, conspiracies, UFOs? If we just did that.
Cover-ups? Well, that makes sense. What? That's got to be something else, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll take this down to 1800 just to make it a bit more. Yeah, like you said, 47. Gold standard. No.
Yep. Talked about right at the end of the Great Depression. Not at the end, but like the late 30s, yeah. What else? About like remote viewing. Astral projection. Psychic.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that'd be huge. Yeah, it does follow the same trajectory, though.
Yeah. That's interesting.
All right.
Okay, this has been fun.
Yeah.
I've lost the original thread. But figuring out ways, brainstorming ways to measure the time it takes for crazy things to become real or become, like, enter the Overton window. Like, Overton window, Overton, like, it's like the Overton Doppler effect or something. Overton latency? Ooh, that might be something.
Yeah, something like that. It's about fiction's catching up, isn't it? Really. But I mean that begs the question of, like, is reality slowing down for them, or?
There's also the question of causality. Is it like meme magic happening? Is our imaginations being trained to expect a thing so with such uniformity that it brings it about? Yeah, because there's a difference between measuring how long it takes for a belief to catch on and how long for a prophecy to self-fulfill itself.
Self-fulfilling prophecies. All right, we could write a huge thing on this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, you have so many overlapping currents. You've got, like, literally, like, empirical, the fact that, technology does tend to do that. You've got, like, the spiritual angle of self-fulfilling prophecy. You've also got the philosophical angle of, like, cause and effect and social memetics, which is also like an engineering type angle. These are all coalescing into this same law of that, I don't know, reality is like waiting outside of time, and then it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just picking from a big vending machine. Oh, I want that one. I want gay frogs, please. All right, that'll be 10 years. Wait 10 years for delivery.
But it's not just that, because it's like, stop talking about it. It's like, stop talking about gay frogs. You know what I mean? That's why as soon as Alex Jones like says something like that, I'm like, right, damn, like, because that's the thing. It's almost like as soon he's like flicked a switch where it doesn't matter if that actually wasn't real. It now will become real. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it's kind of annoying to make. Like the point being, be careful what we imagine, be careful what we talk about.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and just be careful what you pretend, and be careful what you like focus on at all. So like the good news is that's important and cool and explanatory. The bad news is, who wants to be the imagination nanny going around and saying, you shouldn't imagine that? Like, there has to be a better way to be an activist about this stuff than just trying to be like, trying to rain on everyone's parade. Like, stop watching
this is
Squid Game.
One of the functions of I've heard about. I don't want to know about Squid
Game. Forget it.
I don't want to know about it. I've heard like
exactly.
It's some
forget
weird
it.
Demonic thing.
I don't know anything either, but very likely.
Anything like that now, I'm like that. But this is one of the functions of religions, really. When you think back, this is one of the functions. Is like, if you collectively all start acting a certain way, it isn't just going to enact itself at the individual level. Like that has wider effects, right? Yeah.
But fuck, I distracted you. You were saying something really interesting when I said the word Squid Game, and that went off this way. Do you remember what that was?
No, I just said I haven't seen it yet, and I don't want to know about it.
Right, I know, but you were saying something really interesting until I mentioned the title of it, and then you started saying that.
I don't know. Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
I derailed your train. We'll go back and watch the Insta replay.
This is what happened. This is a clear example. I was like, Squid Game, bang, gone.
I know. I am so sorry. Like this is why, folks. This is why, kids. You should be very careful about your memes. Meme hygiene.
We need to make. What was those old war adverts to do with like STDs? And not. One was like, keep it in your pants with STDs, and one was like to do with like, be careful who you talk to on the. We need like a. Be careful what you imagine.
Yeah.
Your memes might come real. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's listening.
Yeah, you don't know what's listening. And there's a picture of like a demon with a wizard hat on or some shit.
Yeah, and you're little like, oh, I wonder about flying cars. Stop.
Yeah. Well, I love the meme analysis YouTube channel. I've seen only a tiny minority of the stuff he's produced, but at the end of every video he says, remember, memes matter. And I just love that he's memeing that out there. It's 100% right, yeah.
History is just memes. all the way down.
Yeah, 100%. I've even heard people compare like the mimetic nature of the universe with like a blockchain, in the sense that you need all these multiple confirmations of a thing in order to make it like official. So when we
But
collectively imagine
can
a
they
thing,
be
it
undone?
like
That's a big thing.
makes it
Can a
official.
block be undone?
I mean,
Not fully. It's still there in history, isn't it?
I mean, I think, yeah, even the technical blockchains, a block can be undone. You just need consensus. You need people to agree that a different story happened.
Over 50%.
Yeah, you need to 51% attack history, like mimetically.
We need to 51% attack history.
Yeah.
But then we've proven that doesn't really work because consensus is hidden somewhere else. Take Brexit. We 51%, literally 51% attacked the EU protocol and got the thing, but the consensus apparently wasn't there. That's the nefarious power that we're trying to unravel. Is what is that force that, even though it got 51%ed, why was it collectively not accepted? That's big.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the media that we're trying to not like attack, but say, you've got your own bias.
Yeah, I mean, voting is a lossy consensus mechanism, and you would think that like the collective imagination of humanity is not, because that's like where the things happen. That's like the causal. They call it the causal realm. They call it the causal body. Like you talk about the causal body, like going off and having adventures. It's like it's a term in weird spiritual circles. That there is like this kind of reality making force in, I guess, what you might call the imagination, or some like non-physical aspect of psychic life. And so I wonder what a mimetic 51% attack would look like at that level. Like voting is a super coarse-grained approximation of that. But if we suddenly were just like, oh, maybe this is kind of already happening. Maybe this is already kind of being weaponized. Like in particular in America, like Christopher Columbus is a bad guy now. And like whether or not he was matters maybe a little less than the fact that we're kind of getting jerked around by it. There's definitely been this sort of crusade to reframe things, and that power shouldn't be centralized. And what 51% attacks are worth doing? I'm talking about like mimetically. Like how do we 51% attack like the memoscape so that the future is good rather than the dystopia that everyone's been imagining for the last 30 years. And I think Gitcoin is actually doing this a little bit with their big Solarpunk push. Kevin Iwaki talked about that on our podcast last week, a couple weeks ago. And now I'm seeing them post about that a lot. They're doing like Solarpunk like contests and stuff, like post your best Solarpunk, imagination of the future visionary drawing or something, and you'll get an NFT or something like that. Like they're trying to meme it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know there's some big pushes for Solarpunk stuff at the moment. I know a few guys who are
what was that?
into that. I know a few guys who are big into the Solarpunk stuff. That seems to be slowly,
it's a really nice aesthetic.
Propagating.
Yeah. I'm kind of a UFO-lerpunk. Like I want to live in a tiny house way out in the country, but have a UFO so I can visit the city like nothing. Or Mars or the moon, or like, those other places where they have cities.
Keep dreaming.
I will, man,
Yeah.
If there's any century it's going to happen in.
But yeah, I know, for sure. But you notice the moon base, I think this is why we're stuck with just the ships, because people are like, Tesla, rockets. It's like, yeah, you guys need to get onto the next stage and let that come about, right? He mentioned the moon base, and it amazed me at the time that more people weren't like, dude, what? A moon base? Like, that's Cool. But
Elon mentioned a moon base.
Yeah, he literally said he plans to have a base on the moon.
Oh, right. He's talking about a future moon base. Got it.
Yeah, but that fiction didn't take root.
Yeah, you're right.
The rockets, people are just stuck with the rockets. Like, dude, they go up and then they land. Like, okay, great, cool. Like, you guys need to keep going, basically chanting. It's like an old school ritual. Just keep chanting Moonbase.
Interesting. So you think he's like lubricating the transition to future tech by like being super gradual about it?
Well, that is literally what he's doing, because all the tech that he pushes here on Earth is basically a means for him to develop what he needs for space. And for everything he needs in the moon base. So like the boring tunnel. Like, dude, he just wanted a government subsidy so he could learn how to make tunnels. He didn't care about us. Same with the electric cars. He just needed a government subsidy to be able to develop the electric technology to help him on Mars. And he's a clever way to go about it, is to target the technology which the government is going to subsidize, and then use that to be able to develop your thing on the side, and then go do your thing. He's a clever guy. No, that's just like everything he chooses. He's like, right, it covers 3 bases. It's like a sustainable technology which the government will subsidize, which otherwise definitely wouldn't be profitable. But equally is a technology which he definitely needs on Mars, but would cost a ton to be able to develop and do the developmental stage. And it always covers these bases with him. And also he knows that enough will turn a profit and will be sort of mimetically cool, right? Everything he does is like, it's this and this, and also it's kind of cool. Like, and he's an amazing marketer. Like, you think about the hats. He somehow made it like so cool just to own. I didn't buy one, I don't care. But he made it like, for some reason, this basic site with just a hat was like, these are so cool, man. And it was just, what did it say? Like, the boring company. And I don't know. There was like a mimetic atmosphere of like, dude, this is so cool.
Do you think, what direction did it go in? Is he like a nerd who cracked memeing and figured out how to meme? Or did he just like become super rich and powerful, and by virtue of being those things, he became cool and everything he did became cool? Is it like the status first, or did he meme himself into status? I mean, there is kind of a chicken and egg thing going on, but it seems weird that someone who's a huge nerd, as he seems to be, would be really good at memes, unless he just cracked it in a nerd kind of way, like analyzed it and figured it out.
These guys are always smarter than, like people are like, oh, Trump's so dumb, dude. He's really not. Like, don't be so naive. That whole attitude of like, just because you don't like someone, like, oh, they're so thick. Like, no, he knows what they're doing. It's like the Boris Johnson as well. Like, oh, I'm the bumbling buffoon. Like, you're not. You're a sociopath.
Yeah. Covered a lot of ground today. It was good.
Yeah, man. It was fun.
It's
fun on these live streams.
100%. Let's figure out some more. Not right now. I'm just saying, like, homework for next time. And chances are, it might be a good idea to do like maybe a shorter one every day or something instead of a longer one every week. Yeah, let's keep figuring out how to measure like a mimetic latency or something. Yeah, that kind of works. That term kind of works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to keep pushing. We got to keep grinding these things out.
Yep.
Because otherwise we're going to fall behind.
Yeah, and I think really it's laying train tracks. I think people are interested in this and going to be more interested, and there's not really frameworks for thinking about this stuff in any kind of objective way yet. And the more we can experiment in that direction, the more of a outlet valve people are going to have to, to their curiosities and trying to figure out the same stuff down the line. So I really want to, play with this a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, man. This was cool. We will now talk offline and reflect with our friends about how that went. I liked it a lot. If you are still listening, then you are probably one of the smarter people in the universe. And you should join us on the Ideamarket Discord, ideamarket.io/Discord, and come hang out with us. Peace.
See you guys.
Now, yeah.